everybody. Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta, JJ on the other side of the ATL. Wayne, our producer in Memphis, Tennessee. Our guest is Dave Cohen, the voice of the Georgia State Panthers. Guys, I hope you guys all had a great Christmas break. I did. Went to Minnesota to broadcast a national junior hockey tournament, 5 days in Blaine, Minnesota. Got to see where the United States women Olympic team trains, and also Herb Brooks Arena. That was quite some history. JJ, how was your break?
Man, it was lovely. Child got a jungle gym slide, whatever you want to call it. We put it together. It was our first Santa Claus excursion for my daughter, so we had a blast. It was a really good break. Wayne, how about you?
Well, of course, all y'all know I went down to Florida before the holidays, and then we got back here. I had some family come in, enjoyed the Christmas day, and then we went to see a really fantastic movie that I'm going to have to recommend to everybody. It's called American Underdog. It's about Kurt Warner, and it's a fantastic movie.
We all know what Dave Cohen did on Christmas Day. We'll get into that, the Georgia State win over Ball State. First, before we do that, just want to let everybody know you can get a hold of us all on social media at ATL Prime Sports. JJ at JJ Get You One, Wayne at RWY Jr., myself at CORDER Todd. You can get a hold of us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just want to let you know, everybody, what's on tap for today. We've got contenders and pretenders in the NFL playoff picture, and where do the Dirty Birds stand. We've got a college football preview for the Final Four, and, of course, we've got Dave here right on ATL Prime Sports. And last of all, our Pick Six. Let's bring our guest in, Dave Cohen, the voice of the Georgia State Panthers. Dave, it's been a while. Your schedule, my schedule, the fella's schedule, we haven't been able to hook up, but now we can, and I'm glad you're here. Before we get into Georgia State sports, guys, NFL legend John Madden, died unexpectedly this morning at the age of 85. Golly, they just had a tribute for him on Christmas Day on Fox, and I happened to see it all. You guys all know he retired at the age of 42. He was a 1977 Oakland Raiders Super Bowl championship coach when they beat Minnesota 32-14. You all know that he is a Hall of Fame coach and broadcaster. Plus, we all know about the video game Madden, which, legend passed away. And you know what, Dave? I'm going to go to you first on this. Me, you, and Wayne are all in that same age bracket. We won't divulge the number. JJ's younger than us. Dave, what comes up with you when you think of John Madden?
Well, it's kind of twofold because, I remember him obviously as the head football coach of the Oakland Raiders, and the many times that they would face the New England Patriots in meaningful games. And then, of course, like you said, he's one of the sports voices of our childhood. Again, those of us that are a little bit older, although we remember him as a head coach, a lot of people, us included, also remember him for his television work. And, that it was one of those voices that was instantly recognizable when you heard it. And also one of the authoritative voices on the National Football League telecasts. An ex-coach, not necessarily an ex-player. So it's, again, I'm of the age, I'm not really a video game guy, so I know that it's called Madden, but I don't really play it. I've never really played it, but my kids do and have. So I think depending on your age, Madden in a different arena. And like I said, for me, I do remember him as the coach of the Raiders, and but I think most people remember him and are familiar with him through his television work, and if you know one thing about him, you knew that he didn't like to fly. And during the height of his TV work, he was traveling around the country in the Madden bus. So that is how John Madden, affected me as far as, my knowledge of him.
JJ, what's your memory real quick?
Boom. Gotta be the word boom. How he described the action as a play-by-play color commentary guy. Him and Pat Summerall in the booth. You knew it was 4:25 on a Sunday afternoon, and it was a big game between usually two NFC opponents on Fox. That's how I remember John Madden. I remember John Madden's video games, playing the very first one on Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and all the way up until now where I'm playing it on my Xbox One. I've been playing the game for 30 years. 30 years I've been playing Madden. I remember when he was featured on the video game, and he would talk about just being at the water cooler and all the famous sayings from John and Pat Summerall. He always called your New England Patriots by the city's name. He always said Foxborough. I always appreciated that about John Madden. But my biggest John Madden memory is boom. Just the one word, you knew it was a big play, a big hit, or doink off of a bad play or a bad drop. Just the way he broadcast a football game. That is my memory. And I'll say rest in peace, John Madden. You are one of the reasons I tried and am trying to get into this business, my friend.
Wayne?
Well, I tell you, the biggest memory I have is him being in the pregame show. I would have never tuned into any NFL pregame show before watching the actual game if it were not for him. He was a fantastic analyst as well as commentator. And, if I think of NFL football, I'm going to picture his face as part of that.
For me, it's more of a football coach winning the Super Bowl against the Vikings in '77. Old man Willie Brown returning the interception from Fran Tarkenton to put it away. I remember one of their biggest victories ever as a Raiders coach was that he kept Dave Casper caught a ball and he fumbled it. They kept batting it towards the end zone, and they finally fell down, and they finally fell on the ball in the end zone and defeated the Dolphins. They changed the rule, did the National Football League, that you could not keep pushing a fumble forward and recover it. Wherever the fumble was, where the offense recovered the ball, that's where it would be. And then, of course, the immaculate reception game that he lost against Pittsburgh when Franco Harris made that catch just off the turf. That was an agonizing loss, but wow. I mean, he changed the way the game was broadcasted as an analyst. And not only did he did it for four networks, CBS, Fox, ABC, and NBC. He broadcasted Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football. And, his partners were all Hall of Famers, too. And Summerall and Al Michaels. And, I mean, he was the best. And, his commercials were awesome. And like Dave said, traveling by the bus because he stopped flying and he tried flying, then the train, and then the Madden cruiser. So that's what I remember of John Madden, and it's a big loss to the National Football League today. He passed away unexpectedly at the age of 85. All right, guys, let's move on. Dave, let's talk about Georgia State. Wow, what a season. This is a team after a 1-4 start, won 7 of their last 8, defeated Ball State 51-20 on Christmas Day in the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery in Alabama. No team in college football played 4 ranked teams on the road. In the season 8-5, won 7 of their last 8. Ended with a 4-game winning streak. And Dave, to me, if you're going to turn to one player that turned this thing all around for them, it has to be quarterback Darren Granger, the junior. 1,715 yards, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Ran the ball for 4.8 yards a carry, and he saved his best game for last, 15-19, 203, 3 touchdowns versus Ball State, 11 rushes, 122 yards, and a touchdown. And Sean Elliott just simply said it. It was Georgia State's best performance of the year. They saved it for last, and it's got to make you really excited for next year that this team could potentially win the Sun Belt.
Well, as you said, it was a 1-4 start, and I was a guest on your weekly podcast during most of those 5 weeks, and by the time we got to the point where we were 1-4 and looking to bounce back after that loss to Appalachian State in the conference opener, after losing a close game, a woulda, coulda, shoulda at Auburn, tough losses at North Carolina and at Army, the first 2 games of the season. At 1-4, as you guys know, those of us that are not inside the locker room on a daily basis, you're at a fork in the road, and that could have gone south pretty quickly at 1-4, or something goes on in that locker room and they're able to pull out of it, and they were able to turn that season around. I know now it's easy to look back and say, yeah, they won 7 of the last 8, 6 of the last 7 going into the bowl game, but because football is a once-a-week game, you do have to truly take it week by week, and they were able to do that. Coming out of what was, not a pretty loss at home to Appalachian State. So, the credit goes to head coach Sean Elliott, the offensive and defensive coordinators, all of the coaches, the strength and conditioning guys. But most of all, it goes to the guys that are inside the 4 walls of that Georgia State locker room down at Center Park Credit Union Stadium, because ultimately they're the ones that went out and made the plays. You mentioned Darren Granger, and we kind of kidded around. It really didn't pay to be on the cover of the schedule poster this year, because Cornelius Brown IV and Destin Coates were 2 of the more featured players on this year's schedule poster. Both have since entered the transfer portal. One has landed. I'm not sure where the other one is, but Granger came in after playing limited minutes in those first 2-3 games and assumed the mantle when the decision was made that they were going to go with Granger, because at the time, early in the season, even losing, he was moving the offense a little bit better down the field. But the other big decision, again, in hindsight, after he had fumbled twice, was to basically sit Destin Coates, who was the number 1 running back going into the season. And they ended up with a tandem of Tucker Gregg, who's a great story because he was a walk-on from Chatsworth up in the northwest corner of the state of Georgia, and a transfer from South Carolina who transferred in as a defensive back, Jamias Williams. Together, they rushed for, I think it was over 1,400 yards, and they each scored 9 touchdowns. So they combined for 18 touchdowns. So they really were kind of a running back A, running back B, Batman Robin type running attack. And then you throw in Darren Granger, as you mentioned, who is a dual threat quarterback in the air and with his legs on the ground. And they really had kind of a really nice nucleus. The other interesting thing about Georgia State is going into the season, before we had any injury or COVID issues, we really thought that Cornelius McCoy and Sam Pinckney would be our Batman and Robin with regards to wide receivers, because those were the go-to guys. Well, injuries, the virus really slowed both of them. Sam Pinckney ended up, once he was healthy enough to play significant minutes, he ended up as our second leading receiver with 27 catches, but only the 1 touchdown. And it was news as of this morning that he has entered the transfer portal and will look to play elsewhere away from Georgia State starting next season. So we had to have some young guys step up. Jamari Thrash ended up being the leading receiver this year. Really had to step forward and kind of fill some pretty big shoes of McCoy and of Pinckney. The University of Central Florida transfer, Josias Cradle, stepped in and, made some big catches throughout the season and really made his presence known. And then, of course, throw in the tight ends, Aubrey Payne, who had 2 touchdown catches in the win over Ball State, and is a great kid, and Roger Carter, who didn't play but who was significant, throughout the season to get Georgia State where they were at the end. And so, again, it wasn't just the quarterback spot. There were a number of positions that changes were made or players had to step up due to injury to kind of keep it rolling. And to their credit, they were able to do that. And then, again, as you may have seen on Christmas Day, not only did the offense put up 51 points, but the defense played really well down the stretch. And I say that the last 8 games. After some rough spots there against Army and against North Carolina, where they gave up 43 and then 59, and then the loss at Auburn, and then the late loss, at Louisiana later in the conference season. So, hats off to all of them. It was a great way to end the season. They've now been in a bowl game 3 consecutive years, 4 years in the last 5 seasons. They've been to 5 bowl games. They've won 3 of them. They've now won 2 in a row after winning the Lending Tree Bowl a year ago. And hopefully it's another building block. The interesting thing, and I'll wrap up this opening statement this way, we just completed the 12th season of Georgia State football, and we're still checking off boxes of things that are happening for the first time in this program. And Christmas Day, the win over Ball State, there were a few other boxes that were checked. So the program continues to grow, and we'll head into the 13th season here in 2022.
You're listening to Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. You can find him on Twitter at GA State Voice. Dave, at the beginning of this season, I had a feeling this was going to be at least an 8-win team. I mentioned it to you. You and I were hopeful. We talked about the depth. We talked about the experience of this squad. Todd mentioned they won 7 out of their last 8. By my count, I think that's the first bowl win against a team not named the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, right?
This is true.
So that's a check mark, as we mentioned. 8 wins. What's next for this Georgia State football team? What's the next goal for Coach Elliott and the Panthers going into next year? Is it maybe being like the Chanticleers, maybe getting to a New Year's Day 6 bowl and winning the Sun Belt? What's the big goal for the Panthers going into next year?
Well, I always preface it by saying I can't speak for head coach Sean Elliott, but I feel safe in saying that if he was on this podcast with us, he would say the next step would be to compete for a Sun Belt Conference championship, win the Sun Belt East, play the winner of the West, and see if they could win a Sun Belt Conference championship. They, really in hindsight, they came close. We ended up, because of the win over Coastal Carolina, that 42-40 win, technically Georgia State finished second in the Sun Belt East.
Yes.
But they have yet to beat Appalachian State in Sun Belt football competition. So before they compete for a Sun Belt Eastern title, and whenever they're able to do that, along the way, they're going to have to beat Appalachian State in football.
Daggone Mountaineers.
And they just have not been able to do that. This year, it really wasn't close. Last year, it was. They lost a woulda, coulda, shoulda game up in Boone. Think of the final, if I remember correctly, the final was like 17-14 or 20-17, or that's as close as they've come. A few of the games have been ugly, kind of like it turned out to be this year at Center Park Credit Union Stadium. But along with Appalachian State, I think the next step is to put themselves in position where they're going to compete for a Sun Belt Conference championship. And let me just add to that. That's if what I'm hearing goes down, and we talked about the additions of Marshall, Old Dominion, Southern Miss, and eventually James Madison. Those teams are not supposed to come in until 2023. I am hearing that 3 of them could come in as early as 2022, with James Madison joining in 2023, because they're out of the 4, they're the only FCS program. So they do have, I think, an extra year of transition. But let me tell you, the Sun Belt East will be no joke. And I'm not saying it's the Southeastern Conference Eastern Division. I'm saying in the Sun Belt, you're going to have Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, Marshall, Old Dominion, Georgia State, Georgia Southern with a new head football coach. South Alabama and Troy, I believe, are moving over to the Sun Belt West to balance things out with Southern Miss coming in. So It's not going to be easy to win the Sun Belt East because, as I've said, when is the last time Appalachian State had a down year?
Never. I mean,
exactly.
Right. This is their first bowl loss. This is literally unprecedented territory for the Mountaineers.
Right.
So you're right there, Dave. That's a tough division, as tough as any Group of 5 conference. And I'll tell you what, I think when Cincinnati hops ship to the Big 12, I think the Sun Belt could come up there and be the best Group of 5 conference. I really do. They're poised. They got great coaches. Todd Helton, Elliott. We could go down the list. Conway, go up to Boone, North Carolina. They got great coaches all around this conference. And I really think this conference can jump up into that AAC type deal, really get some big recognition. We already seen Coastal Carolina do it. App State was close. Louisiana was close. Sunbelt's right there, Dave. You're exactly right.
And don't forget, with Louisiana, we'll see if they're able to maintain what Billy Napier had going in Lafayette, much the same way Appalachian State has been able to maintain as they have gone through a couple of coaches now. Sean Clark, the head football coach there, they've been able to keep it up and running. And, again, up until the bowl game where they gave up 50-plus points, which we're not used to seeing out of Appalachian State, for the most part, App State, Louisiana, Coastal Carolina have been the face of Sun Belt football. So the question is, can Georgia State kind of move into that group and become a face of Sun Belt football and be one of those programs? I mean, this very well could have been a 10-win season. You beat Auburn and you beat Louisiana, who you were leading both late in the fourth quarter, but unable to pull it out. That's a 10-win season right there if you're able to do it. They were close, but, it's going to end up as Todd, as he said, 8-5 and, a bowl win this year for Georgia State.
Hey, Dave, speaking of, turning the page and going to next year, I'm looking at the Georgia State football schedule, and it's just as brutal this year. Actually, when I look at it, the first 8 games, it's probably more brutal than it was a year ago because you go to South Carolina, you're home against North Carolina, you have Charlotte. This time you go to Army, then you go to App State, then Coastal at home, then Georgia Southern at home, and then Louisiana at home. So the team could be better next year, yet the record may not show it because this schedule is brutal.
No question. And we're not going to be as experienced next year as we were this year, based on players that are seniors, based on players that will enter the transfer portal, of which there's already been, I think, 6 or 7 of them. So the times are changing in college football on a season-to-season basis. You just don't know who you're going to have on your roster from one year to the next because of the transfer portal and players going in and out. Matter of fact, Wayne, we've got a transfer quarterback coming in from Memphis.
Oh, which one?
By the name of Keelan Brown.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So, from what I understand, he'll be enrolling, I think, in January. So now you've got Granger. You'll have Keelan Brown coming in from Memphis. Michele Colasurdo, as far as I know, is still with Georgia State, but it's going to keep the competition at the quarterback position. Everybody will have to be in tip-top shape and on their game, as we saw this season. With that early competition between Cornelius Brown and Darren Granger and Michele Colasurdo. So, going to be interesting season to season, but you're right, the early schedule is tough.
I'm sorry, Dave, switching over from basketball, from the football to the hardwood real quick. We don't have a whole lot of time left. Sorry about that. Georgia State 6-5 overall, playing well at home, 4-0 at home, 1-5 away. Unfortunately, they're coming off an overtime loss to Georgia Tech a week ago. Jordan Usher hurt him with 30. Corey Allen led Georgia State with 15, the senior from Ypsilanti, Michigan. But the story of that game is Georgia Tech hammered Georgia State on the boards 51-33. Is this a problem you see as the season progresses for Georgia State, or is this just a one-time team from a Power 5 conference in basketball?
Well, right now it'll be a problem because we don't have our starting 4 and or 5, depending on which, really he would be a 4. And that's Eliel Saseme, who averaged a double-double last year. He's been sidelined the entire season with injury. And, you take out double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, and the presence that he provides in the post, and that's a huge void. That's a big loss right there. And I'm not making it as an excuse. It's just a fact. So, hopefully he'll be back this season. I'm not sure of the timetable for his return. But in the meantime, Jalen Thomas and by committee, guys will try to fill those shoes. The Georgia Tech game was a woulda, coulda, shoulda. Could have managed the clock a little better down the final minute. Maybe one shot selection that kind of comes to mind that maybe we took a shot a little too early. But nonetheless, Jordan Usher scored. They outscored us in overtime 13-3, and he had 9 of their 13 points. So, credit where credit is due. 3 of our wins at home are against non-Division ones. So that's going to skew that a little bit. But we open up conference play at Arkansas State on Thursday, and then Arkansas Little Rock on Saturday. And so, 11 games in, we're 6-5. There have been some ugly losses in there at Richmond, at Rhode Island.
Yep.
There's been some good wins in there, winning the tournament at High Point, North Carolina. But conference, Georgia State was picked preseason number 1. And it's going to be a battle to maintain that level without LEL as we start conference play this week.
Yeah, Dave, I had actually thought about going to that Arkansas State game because it's just up the road from Memphis here. Then I saw what time it started, and I was like, yeah, it's a little bit late, and then I'd have to get back to Memphis pretty late. So, but I will definitely be checking that out, and probably you'll be calling that game, right?
I will be there, Wayne. I'll be coming through Memphis on Wednesday and heading down to Jonesboro, Arkansas once we exit out of the Memphis airport. So.
All right.
Wow. Well, Dave, thanks for being on the show. As always, greatly appreciated. Happy New Year to you and your family. Tell us how everybody can listen to the basketball games coming up.
Always on our flagship, the 50,000-watt radio station, 88.5 FM WRAS, which is also streaming online at TuneIn Radio. Just search WRAS, or you can download the GSU Athletics mobile app to your iPhone, iPad, or whatever device you carry around. And it's easy. As they say, tap the app, and the audio is right there. Yep.
I like it. Tap the app. And Dave, we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully we'll have a victory for Georgia State basketball, and take care as always, and have a safe and happy New Year.
All right, same to you guys. Always good to jump on here and talk a little Georgia State, and best of luck to you guys, and happy New Year to you guys as well.
All right.
Happy New Year, Dave.
Take care. That's the voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, here on ATL Prime Sports. Let's move on real quick. Let's talk about the college football playoffs, guys. They're Friday. Let's talk about the matchups on New Year's Eve. Let's do Georgia and Michigan first. To me, this game simply comes down to who can convert on 3rd and long, and who can run the ball best on 1st down to set up 2nd and short offensively. Whose offensive line is going to win the battle against each team's distinguished defensive line? They talked, the Georgia's offensive coordinator today talked glowingly about Stetson Bennett and how well he's played, and this is the guy, and he wrestled the job from JT Daniels, and they have all the confidence in the world. Not only can they beat Michigan, but they can beat whoever they play in the national title game, and they can win the whole thing with Stetson Bennett at quarterback. He truly beat out JT Daniels. And JJ, real quick, Georgia has received nothing but the bad rat poison for about 3 weeks now, and Michigan, on the other hand, has been receiving nothing but the other rat poison. And I'll tell you what, Georgia's rat poison to me could be yummy, like Alabama's was against Georgia. And we'll see who handles what better. Of course, obviously, COVID now, each team in their own bunker. To me, this just comes down to what I stated. Who can run the ball best on first down and who can avoid third down and long. And also, each team is going to come up with a trick play. I can just see it coming.
I don't know about a trick play. Kirby's only run one trick play in his tenure at Georgia, and it didn't work, and it was in the national championship game against Alabama. I don't see Kirby running a trick play. I don't see Kirby Smart needing a trick play against Michigan. If you look at recruiting battles, Georgia from top to bottom has a better roster. Michigan was unranked coming into the year. Here they are now, top 4. Nobody saw them. They played the 2 best games, the 2 biggest games of their entire lives, the last 2 games, winning the Big Ten championship, beating Iowa, and then obviously beating their arch rival for the first time in several years, getting that hump off their back. I think the big key in this game, Todd, you mentioned it, it's which offensive line handles the opposite defensive line and their players. It's Ajabo and Hutchinson versus the offensive line of Georgia. And Sawyer and all these other guys are going to have to play offensively sound. They're going to have to play gap sound. They're going to have to really commit to first down, as you mentioned. If they can get off the ball, open up that play action pass for Stetson Bennett, because he is one of the better deep ball throwers in the country, whether you like to admit it or not. That is one of the reasons Todd Monken is so proud and so high on Stetson Bennett, is because the way he has thrown the deep ball when it's been there. Georgia has to run the ball in order for that to happen, though. George Pickens is 100% healthy. You're not going to see a pitch count on him, per se, like you did at Georgia Tech and in the SEC title game. There would be no strings attached. And when this guy is playing at an elite level, he's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the country. Big, strong, physical, set a Sugar Bowl record against Baylor with, I think it was 12 catches. $150 plus or around $150, and he just had a heck of a day. So I think George Pickens, you mentioned the offensive and defensive lines, both of them. It's going to be, how does Michigan handle Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Wyatt, all in company. It's really, these teams defensively, they're identical. Let's look at the stats defensively. Both teams are giving up right around 172 for Georgia, 194 through the air for Michigan defensively. Rushing, Georgia's given up 81, Michigan 121.5. So these teams defensively mirror each other. Offensively, it's the same. But I think the difference really comes in the quarterback, where Georgia doesn't have to worry about a Bryce Young who can beat you through the air significantly. I don't know if Michigan will be able to beat Georgia simply for that reason. I think Georgia will be able to slow down Haskin and Blake Corum, who actually, Blake Corum's one of the best in the country at getting into the second level before he's even touched. I think he's averaging over 3 yards before
and he's healthy, JJ. He's healthy, and he's one of the fastest. He may be the fastest running back in the open field in the country.
Right.
You mentioned George Perkins. That is a huge bump up at wide receiver for Georgia. It is gigantic. 2 things. You're going to see 2 quarterbacks in this game for Michigan. You're not only going to see McNamara, but you're going to see J.J. McCarthy, who can do it with his arm and his legs, the 5-star quarterback out of high school for Michigan. And you're going to see a trick play. They've done a ton of them. That's why I think Georgia may do one and surprise Michigan. To me, the chess match in this game is really fascinating. And then the final thing, you and I talked about this off the air, and I know you agree with me. These teams are excellent in special teams. Their kickers are phenomenal. They're Sunday good, aren't they?
Yeah, both kickers are. Podlinski won the game for Georgia in the Peach Bowl last year with a basically last-second walk-off field goal. So,
yeah.
Special teams is huge, and this is obviously, to me, coaching in this game is huge. When you have the 3+ weeks to prepare that Harbaugh and Kirby Smart have had, This is going to be an elite matchup of coaching. These are two really good football coaches. They know what they're doing. They get the best out of their players. And I think that's going to come down to play. I think this will be a really competitive ball game. And I'm excited to see what Harbaugh and Kirby Smart do. Honestly, between the lines here, Todd, I think they're two of the best coaches in the country right now.
It should be a blast. Let's go ahead and go to Auburn and not Auburn. Sorry, Wayne. Sorry about Auburn losing to Houston today, by the way. Sorry about that. I had that on my mind momentarily. Let's go to Alabama and Cincinnati. To me, Cincinnati defensively, guys, they got to get the pressure on Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young. And offensively, they got to have success on first down. And Ritter must be able to run when he has the chance, maybe a broken play or design run for him. I'm not sure if a design run is going to work out against Alabama's D-line, but a broken play. And Cincinnati on the special teams, they've been struggling with field goals this year, where Alabama usually does struggle in that department. They've been really good in special teams this year. Guys, the Georgia game I see close. This one, I do not.
I actually beg to differ on that. I think Cincinnati's just as good as anybody in the country. I think they've proven that. They play in the AAC, where you look at their schedule now on the back end of it. Tulsa's a bowl team. They played SMU's a bowl team. Houston's a bowl team. East Carolina's a bowl team. They beat Notre Dame. Beat a lot of decent teams that are in bowl games. They're actually doing good, and we just saw Houston beat an SEC foe in Auburn. So I think up front they can compete. The real difference for Cincinnati's in the defensive backfield. Two superstars, Kobe Bryant. That's right, Kobe Bryant.
That's a great point, JJ. That's a great point in the secondary. Go ahead.
Let me finish out here. You have Kobe Bryant on one side, and he's the Jim Thorpe Award winner. And you have a guy, Amon Sauce Gardner, on the other side, who hasn't given up a touchdown in man coverage this year, per the Cincinnati Enquirer. So I think those two lockdown corners can really change the momentum of this game. And if they are effective and they can shut down that the pass game of Bryce Young, and if Cincinnati can get after Bryce Young, if that offensive line reverts back to the Auburn game where they gave up 7 sacks against that AU team, look, I think Cincinnati could really give Alabama fits. But
you made excellent points about the secondary.
Go ahead, Todd.
You made some excellent points about the secondary. I just want to tell you those were excellent points. To me, this game, I'm sorry to say, is going to be one on the line of scrimmage, and that's where I think Cincinnati falls short. I just think they fall short on the O-line and D-line with Alabama's O-line and D-line. That's where this game will be won. God bless the guys in the secondary, but if Alabama's O-line's giving Bryce Young any time to throw, it doesn't matter who's covering the receivers; they're going to get open. But I do commend you on those points.
The biggest one. And another key to this game too, and I'll finish up with this. And Wayne, if you have any thoughts on this game, chime in. But I think no John Mechie for Alabama really hurts their deep ball passes, and the ability to extend the Cincinnati defense, who was able to hold Notre Dame, who's a pretty good team, in South Bend. So I think this is a lot better matchup. And you mentioned rat poison. I know Nick Saban's hating the rat poison he's eating.
Yes, he is hating the rat poison this week. He said the rat poison for Georgia was yummy. Correct. Wayne, do you have any keys for either game? Do you have any keys for Michigan, Georgia, or Alabama and Cincinnati?
Not really. I think I'm going to save my comments for the pick six.
Oh, you know what?
I like it. It's the last one of the year, folks.
I like it. All right, let's go. Let's go on to our next topic. I like it. All right, the 17th week of the NFL season upon us. Holy smokes, does time go by?
We still got one more.
What'd you say?
Said it's the 17th, and we got an 18th next week. It's the weirdest thing. I can't get over it.
2 weeks left in the season. I know I'm getting older. As I get older, this flies by every year, JJ. I can't wait till you get our age. You're going to go, holy smokes, TC is way more right. So with 2 weeks left in the season, we'll go ahead and play pretender and contender, and we got to do the NFC because the Falcons here in the ATL, and I'll come up with it real quick. The NFC is pretty simple. Green Bay, Dallas, the Rams, Tampa, Arizona are all in. San Francisco, Philadelphia, Minnesota, 2 of those 3 teams are going to get in. Atlanta, New Orleans are pretender. The Falcons have already lost head-to-head to Frisco and Philadelphia. They would have to win 2 in a row, including the game at Buffalo this weekend. Good luck. And then Frisco and the Eagles would have to lose 2 in a row. The odds are so long. I know we went through a great postseason with the Braves, and they overcame them, but not this odds. JJ, take it from there.
Yeah, the Falcons are definitely pretenders in this instance. Overachievers, though, fans. And let me put on my fan cap here. I'm ecstatic about this season. I did not expect 7 wins. I told you I think the ceiling was 9 and 8 if everything went perfect. I said about 6 and 11. I believe is what I've said on this show. Could be off by a game or 2, but I'm ecstatic. They are pretenders, but right now Arthur Smith is a real contender for a head coach. He's done a lot with a little, and Atlanta fans, you should be thankful for where you are playing meaningful games the last 2 weeks of the season. And if somehow, some way you can win this game in Buffalo, you have a winnable game at home against the Saints to end the season, and who knows what can happen there. But yes, they are pretenders, but hey, overachievers for sure.
Wayne, I got to hear your comments about the Falcons.
Well, the Falcons are doing well with a first-year head coach. I would say they're doing better than expected. Of course, I thought they'd win every game, but then again, I'm a super fan. So as far as the rest of the NFC, I really like Dallas in the NFC more so than any other team. And if I were going to pick a pretender, somebody that I think is going to get knocked out pretty quick, it's going to be Philadelphia.
Well,
I agree there, Wayne.
I don't think Philadelphia, you know what? I don't think Philadelphia is going to be around. I would give the Niners a better chance to win a game. You JJ, are thinking alike about Dallas, and I'm not jinxing it. I'd love to see the Cowboys get to the Super Bowl, is all you know. But to me, defensively, they look to be good enough. Dan Quinn has done a great job. Coach, huh? Go ahead.
TC, why don't you ask me who I think the greatest contender is in the NFC?
Oh, to me, I don't think there's any doubt Green Bay is going to be the favorite. And you can't count out TB12. And Matt Stafford, can't count him out.
You can't count them out, but I'm going with how about them Cowboys. I think they're the greatest contender.
You're killing me. You're jinxing my team. Stop.
That defense is for real. Micah Parsons could be an MVP-type player in a couple years. He was already at that level. He will be the Defensive Rookie of the Year. You go outside, they got the best cornerback in the game at Trayvon Diggs, who's got double-digit interceptions. The guy is a freak of nature when it comes time to getting the ball as a defensive back.
See the commercial with his kid? That's pretty awesome with his kids on there. Have you guys seen that?
Man, and if Dak Prescott continues to play and distribute the ball to Schultz, Elliott, Pollard, Cooper, all the way down the list, I'm telling you, this team is hard to stop. They got a lot of weapons, and if their defense plays at that elite level each and every week, it won't matter what quarterback's playing. Trayvon Diggs is going to take over one side of the field, and you won't even want to throw it that way in the playoffs because he's that big of an X factor. I really think the Cowboys are the biggest contenders in the NFC.
You know what, you guys, don't get me too excited. I'll say this. Diggs has given up big plays. I would love to see Green Bay play Dallas for the NFC Championship game. Aaron Rodgers trying to throw deep against Diggs. That would be a lot of fun. Let's go over to the AFC. My goodness. Kansas City, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Indianapolis, and New England are most likely in. To me, Pittsburgh's not going to be there. Too much has got to happen. 2 of the last 4 spots is going to come down to Let's see, two of the last three.
The
Baltimore,
Ravens, the Chargers.
The Chargers, and what? The Dolphins
and the Ravens. Chargers, Dolphins, Ravens. That's where it's pretty much down to. The Raiders technically have a shot, and the Steelers do too. The Browns do as well as Broncos, but I think it's between those three teams, Todd.
Well, you can't. Vegas is there too. I mean, they have the same record.
The Raiders are there, but I think the Ravens, the Dolphins, I think those are going to be the last two teams competing for that last spot, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what, the NFC is a lot less clear than the AFC. I mean, the AFC is a little more clear to me than the NFC. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, the season ended today. Miami would get the 7th spot, but the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Raiders are right there. I mean, Pittsburgh technically is a half game out. They're right there too, and they play Cleveland and the Ravens at the end. So you really can't count them out neither, but they're going to have to hurdle three teams to get in front of them, and that's a lot. But then again, we've seen all kinds of miracles this year in sports. Anything can happen. JJ, take it away for the pick six.
Yeah, pick six, guys. This is the last one of the year. Standings going into the final week. I'm up by 2 games on Wayne. TC's bringing in the rear at 38-50-2. We had a push the last time we did this thing. I'm at 41-47-2, and Wayne at second place at 39-49-2 through our 90 games. We're going to pick 6 more. Monday spread. Let's get after it. We got 3 college, 3 pros, back to normal. Number 2, Michigan, 12-1. Number 3, Georgia. UGA 7.5-point favorites. The over-under in this game is 45 and a hook. It's the Capital One Orange Bowl in Miami Gardens, Florida at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll go Wayne. We'll go Todd. We'll go myself. Wayne, you start us off, buddy.
Well, I think it's going to come down to momentum versus rebound. And Michigan versus Georgia, I'm picking the momentum. I'm taking Michigan in the points.
Michigan in the points.
JJ, you go next. I want to go last.
Wow, I got to follow up with that. Well, I'm going Dogs. I think the Dogs cover. I think recruiting beats coaching. Jimmy's and Joe's beats coaching. Georgia's got them. I'm resting my hat on that, and that is it because these teams are exactly identical. Georgia covers. I think they win by 10 points.
JJ, can't we have a pick six next week and use all NFL games?
We could. I was just saying for this year in general.
Oh, okay. So it's okay. Well, I'm 3 games behind you, and I need to make it up. You know what? Me and Wayne need to catch you. I think Michigan covers the 7.5 but loses the game. So give me the Wolverines.
All righty. We're starting off differently. Here we go, folks. It's the Cotton Bowl Classic at AT&T Stadium, pitting the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide at 12-1 versus the only undefeated team in the country, the number 4 Cincinnati Bearcats, coming in at 13-0. Alabama's 13.5-point favorites. The over-under, if you're interested, is 58. Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas. Wayne, what say you?
Let's go Bearcats. I'll take the Cincinnati and the points on this.
Cincy and the points. Wayne, we're thinking alike. I think Kobe Bryant. I think Sauce Gardner. I think they get after Bryce Young. I think Alabama wins by 13 points, and they do not cover. I'm taking Cincinnati and those doggone points. That hook is going to save us, Wayne.
No, it's not, because the Sauce can't cover guys all day long if the O-line dominating the Cincinnati D-line. I got Bama covering the spread.
All right, guys, our third and final pick six NCAA game. Remember, these are Monday spreads. Tennessee, Purdue, and the Perfect Music City Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee. Your country, Wayne. 7-5 meets 8-4. Tennessee's a 6-point favorite. Over-under on this one, 64. Should be a pretty high-scoring game. Again, this is at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Wayne, what you got?
This is tough for me because this is one big mama game. My mother went to Tennessee, and my stepmom went to Purdue. But I'm going to have to say, go Big Orange. I'm picking Tennessee to cover.
Tennessee to cover. I got the same thing. I'm going SEC prowess. Purdue's big wide receiver, in blanking on his name, I believe it's Bell, is sitting this one out. I think that makes a huge difference in the Boilermakers passing game. I think Hooker has a big running play, maybe a touchdown on the ground, 2 or 3 through the air, and I think he throws for almost 300, and Tennessee will win this game. They cover, win by a touchdown. What you got, Todd?
High scoring affair, first one to 70. Get the over and under 64. I think they're going to get 70 something. I'm taking Tennessee. It's basically a home game for them. I believe Hooker will have a lot of big plays to run the football. I think Tennessee covers.
Going to the NFL for our final 3 pick 6 segment. Falcons 7-8, Bills 9-6, Buffalo's 14.5-point favorites. The over-under in this one's 44.5. So they're thinking it's going to be a 30-3 blowout, folks. That's what Vegas is telling you. Falcons are overachieving as it is. Wayne, what you got?
Yeah, and I love it when Vegas gives me this many points. I'm taking Falcons in the points.
Wayne, we're cooking with Crisco. You and I are cooking with Crisco. Give me the Falcons. Give me the points. I have a feeling somehow, some way they're only going to lose by 14 maybe, and we are saved by the hook again.
You Homer Simpsons need to calm down. The game's in Buffalo. The weather will be nasty and cold. Well, 40 degrees will be nasty and cold for the Falcons. As long as what's-his-face, the quarterback for Buffalo, doesn't get COVID, I like the Bills to cover.
That could change things. That would drastically change the line. The Falcons need the Eagles to drop 2 in a row. Washington. Eagles travel to Washington football team. The 6-9 Washington football team. The 8-7 Eagles. Eagles are a 3.5-point favorite. Over under in this one's 46. Wayne, what say you?
Man, I don't like either one of these teams, even a little bit. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and I guess take the Eagles to cover. But I guess that's because I don't like the Wash Foot team more.
The Wash Foot team. Look, I think the Washington football team plays pretty well at home. I think Heineke's a lot better than he showed last week on a short turnaround from a Tuesday to a Sunday. I think Washington covers. Again, I'm going to go save by the hook. I think Philly wins by a field goal, and I'm taking Washington in the points.
You kidding me? The defensive linemen are fighting on the sideline while the Cowboys are rolling up a 56 spot. Fight, Eagles, fight to the road of victory. Give me the Eagles to cover.
Eagles to cover. Well, Daron Payne and Allen did that at Alabama all the time. They had to separate them on the sidelines. They've done it for years. I don't think that matters. Last, but certainly not least, we got a doozy. Cardinals, Cowboys. Dallas is 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 51. One of the upper ones of the weekend on the over-under number. Cardinals are 10-5. They're struggling. They've lost a couple in a row. Cowboys still trying to get that number 1 seed. Let's see what happens. Wayne, what you got?
Well, I'm going to have to pick Cowboys in this. I just looked at the Cardinals' record, and they play like they're a 7-8 team. They don't play like a 10-5 team. So I'm picking the Cowboys to cover.
I got the Cowboys to cover too. I think Dakota Rain Prescott's playing pretty good football. I think Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard are going to get healthy. They're going to get going. I think Amari Cooper said his piece. He got into the end zone last week. Schultz, the rest of the company, I think they went out. I think they may finish with that number 1 seed with a little bit of help. I like the Cowboys to cover.
As Jimmy Johnson would say, how about them Cowboys? Gimme Dallas. The Cardinals are not playing well. They got beat by Detroit. I mean, that's all you need to know. Dallas, of course, played fantastic on Sunday Night Football, rolled Washington. They're just, right now, they're playing too good defensively, and their offensive line is giving Dak time to throw, and they're able to run the football on first down, which is what the Cowboys do best. I like Dallas, and I like them to cover. And again, as Jimmy Johnson would say, since I'm a Dallas guy, how about them Cowboys? Guys,
I also think I think one last final note on that Cowboys game. No DeAndre Hopkins. I really think that hurts Kyler Murray in the deep ball. Cowboys cover for sure.
You know what? That's an excellent point. And again, I'll say it. How about them Cowboys? So anyway, guys, I really enjoyed it. Sorry we went over tonight. I knew we would once we started the beginning of the show, but that's okay. We're not on until next week. So until then, everyone have a safe and happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in a week. Good night, everybody.
Yep. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday. Happy New Year. Get you one. Go Dogs.